A fireplace burns in the spacious room. Jiang Mi sits in a comfortable chair directly in front of the fire. Two of his friends sit next to him. They've all been relaxing for several hours. The conversation flows calmly and leisurely. Bottles and glasses sit on a low table. The men laugh over old stories. Jiang Mi is usually very stern and focused, but now his face is calm. He looks at the fire and slowly sips his drink. Logs crackle in the fireplace. The room smells of wood and expensive tobacco. The warmth of the fire pleasantly warms his feet. All problems and business have been left behind. It's one of those rare evenings when he can simply sit and take his time. His friend Song Ho is telling something, gesturing with his hands. Jiang Mi smiles. He feels relaxed. Good company, warmth, and a soft chair. He needs nothing more right now. Sun Ho finishes his glass and sets it down on the table. He glances around at everyone and smirks. Listen, let's play something, he says. We're sitting here like boring old men. His voice is loud and cheerful. Like truth or dare. Like old times. A brief silence falls in the room. The other two look from Sun Ho to Jiang Mi. This game seems too simple and childish to them. They are used to more serious entertainment. But Sun Ho insists. Come on, what are you staring at? Afraid of simple questions? He glances at Jiang Mi as if testing his reaction. Jiang Mi shrugs. The evening has been calm enough. A little silliness is allowed. Okay, Jiang Mi says calmly. Let's play. Just don't go to extremes. His consent is enough. The others immediately nod, their faces brightening. Everyone knows the rules. They begin to move their chairs to sit in a circle. The mood in the room changes. A slight feeling of excitement and curiosity appears. The game begins. At first, everything is easy and funny. Someone has to sing a song. Another tells an embarrassing story from their youth. Everyone laughs. Chan Mi watches, smiling occasionally. The line goes around in a circle, but then it's his turn. All eyes turn to him. The one who sets the tone smiles. Okay, Chan Mi. Your choice, truth or dare. Chan Mi slowly scans the faces of his friends. He sees the anticipation in their eyes. They are curious what their boss will choose. A frank answer or a difficult task. He thinks for only a second. Really? He has many secrets that cannot be spoken about even here. As a joke. It's too risky. He always prefers dare, to be in control of the situation. Dare, he says clearly and distinctly. The room becomes even quieter. Now everyone looks at the one who will ask him the dare. Chan Mi leans back in his chair. He is ready for anything. His face is emotionless. He just waits. Ho's turn. He looks at Jiang Mi and smiles. His smile is sly and satisfied. He's clearly got something in mind. I've come up with a move for you, Song Ho says. It's interesting. He pauses for effect. Everyone looks at him and waits. Let's swap lives, he says clearly, just for 2 days. Starting tomorrow morning. He falls silent and watches their reactions. His friends exchange glances. One of them gapes in surprise. The idea seems outlandish. How can you swap lives? It's not a thing. But Seong Ho sits and smiles. He's not joking. He's serious. This is his move in the game. Jiang Mi is silent. He simply looks at Seong Ho. The room is very quiet. Everyone understands that this is no longer just a game. This is something more. Seong Ho waits for an answer. He's pleased with himself. He's thrown down a real challenge. The silence stretches. Sun Ho decides to explain further. He wants everything clear. To clear up any questions, let me clarify, he says. We exchange everything. Completely. He starts counting on his fingers. First, houses. You're going to live in my house. I'm staying in yours. He bends the second finger. Second, responsibilities. Activities, meetings, the whole schedule. He bends the third finger. His voice becomes firmer. And third, to be completely honest, wives. You spend time with my Jasmine. I spend time with your Kira. 2 full days. He finishes and leans back in his chair. The words sound like a death sentence. His friends can't believe their ears. Their faces become serious. They look at Chan Mi. This is too much. This is going beyond all bounds. Wives are not toys. This is dangerous and wrong. The atmosphere in the room is tense. Even the air seems thick. Sun Ho looks at Jiang Mi expectantly. He's made his move. Now it's the boss's turn. Everyone waits. What will he say? Will he surrender or accept the challenge? Jiang Mi sits motionless. He looks somewhere past Seon Ho. He doesn't show his feelings. Inside, everything is seething. It's a trap. A stupid, childish trap. But he hates losing. He's never the first to retreat. Everyone knows it. If he says no, Seon Ho will consider himself the winner. That can't be allowed. He thinks for a few seconds. His face is a stony mask. Then he slowly turns his head. His gaze meets Seon Ho's. He nods. Once. short and clear. Okay, Jiang Mi says. His voice is quiet but firm. 2 days. That's how it will be. He says it simply, as if discussing the weather. Everyone in the room exhales. His friends are shocked. They didn't expect such agreement. Xian Ho smiles widely. He is happy. He got the boss to agree to the impossible. Jiang Mi no longer looks at him. He picks up his glass and takes a sip. The conversation on this topic is over. He has accepted the challenge. Now we just have to wait until tomorrow and see what happens. The game continues, but it feels different now. Not as fun and easy. The game suddenly loses all meaning. After Jiang Mi agrees, everything seems to go quiet. They try to play a few more rounds, but it's not the same. The laughter sounds false. Everyone thinks only about tomorrow. Soon, everyone simply falls silent. The game is over. Everyone sits and drinks, avoiding looking at each other. Sun Ho is the first to break the awkward silence. He gets up from his chair. He stands in front of Jiang Mi, who is still sitting. A smug smirk plays on Sun Ho's face. He feels like a winner. Well, Sun Ho says loudly, rules are rules. As an honest man, I'll start right now. He takes a ring of keys from his pocket. He removes one key from the ring. It's his car key. He places it on the table in front of Jiang Mi. The sound of metal clinking is very loud. Here are the keys to my car. It's outside, Sun Ho says. Then he makes a wide gesture with his hand, indicating the surrounding area. And I, therefore, will remain here, in your house, getting settled. His smile widens. And you, don't waste any time. Go to my wife, to Jasmine. Explain the situation to her. Have a good evening, he says the last words with a slight mockery. Jiang Mi looks at the key on the table. The key lies on the dark wood, cold and alien. This is no longer a game. This is reality. The friends watch, holding their breath. They wait to see what the boss will do. Jiang Mi slowly extends her hand. He takes the key. The metal is cold in his warm palm. He stands up. His movements are heavy and slow. He silently nods to his guests. This is a sign that the evening is over. Everyone understands and begins to rise. Jiang Mi doesn't look at Song Ho. He turns and leaves the room. He walks down the hallway toward the exit. Behind him lies the warmth of the fireplace and his own home, in which another man will now live. He steps out into the cold night air. There's a strange car parked in the yard. He approaches it, opens the door, gets into the strange driver's seat. The smell inside is different, not his. He inserts the key into the ignition, turns it. The engine starts with a quiet growl. He looks out the dark window at his house, at the light in the living room windows. Song Ho is there now. He takes a deep breath and puts the car into gear. The car moves smoothly. He drives into the darkness, drives to a strange house, to a strange woman. He has no choice. He gave his word. Just before leaving, he walks into the bedroom. His wife, Kira, is already in her robe. She's sitting at the vanity, removing her makeup. She sees his serious face in the mirror. What happened? Is the game over? She asks, smiling. Jiang Mi closes the door. He walks over to her. He sits on the edge of the bed. He has trouble finding the words. The game is over, but the last act, it concerns us, he says quietly. Kira turns in her chair. Her smile disappears. What do you mean? Jiang Mi looks at the floor. He tells it like it is. About Song Ho's condition, about swapping lives for 2 days, about houses, about wives. He speaks monotonously, without looking up. Kira listens. At first, she simply doesn't understand. Then her eyes grow wider and wider. When he gets to the part about wife swapping, she jumps up from her chair. What? Her voice is clear and sharp, like breaking glass. Are you serious? I gave my word, Jiang Mi says dully. My word? She screams. You gave your word to participate in this circus? You're going to Jasmine now? And this Sun Ho will stay here? With me? Her face turns red with rage. She comes closer to him. No, I don't agree. This is humiliating. This is insane. Are you completely crazy? She screams. She shakes her head. She refuses to believe it. How could he allow this? How could he put her in this situation? She feels like an object of exchange. Her humiliation and anger fill the entire room. He set you up, can't you see? He planned everything. She almost cries with anger. Jiang Mi is silent. He just sits and accepts her anger. He knows she's right, but he can't change anything. He's already agreed. I won't let this happen. I'm going to my mother's, Kira declares, crossing her arms over her chest. You can't. It would be a breach of the terms. It would be my defeat, he says, finally looking up at her. She sees in his gaze not a request, but an order, the very one she hates. He will not back down, not for anything. Their argument lasts a long time. Kira screams. She argues. She begs. She screams again. Chun Mi remains unmoved. He is like a stone wall. He repeats the same thing. I gave my word. 2 days. And that's it. Gradually, her screams subside. The rage does not go away, but it turns into something cold and heavy. She looks at her husband. She sees stubbornness in his eyes. He will not change his decision. He would rather destroy everything than admit his weakness. She knows it. She has lived with this for years. Her shoulders slump. Outwardly, she gives in. All the energy drains from her. She turns away and looks out the dark window. An oppressive silence hangs in the room. "Okay," she finally says. Her voice is quiet and hoarse. "Do as you wish, as always." Chanmi sighs with relief. He thinks she has accepted this. He gets up to leave. "I'll be back in 2 days." "Exactly. Nothing will happen," he says, hoping to calm her down. She nods silently, without turning around. She simply stares at her reflection in the black window. He takes his jacket. He walks to the door. His hand is already on the handle. And then she speaks. She doesn't shout. She whispers. But this whisper is heard in the silence, as clearly as a scream. It chills his blood. "I will accept your rules, Chanmi, these 2 days." "But no." She slowly turns her head. Her eyes burn with a cold, clear fire in the semi-darkness. There are no tears or hysteria in them, only firm determination. "I will take revenge for this setup, for this humiliation. Not him. You. Will you put your pride above me? Fine. I will remember this." She says this calmly, as a statement of fact. This is not an emotional threat. It is a promise. A promise that she will definitely keep. Chanmi freezes in the doorway. He looks at her. For the first time all evening, a crack appears in his confidence. Subtle but noticeable. He wants to say something, but the words won't come. He simply nods, gritting his teeth. Then he leaves, closing the door behind him. Kira stands alone in the middle of the bedroom. She hears the front door slam downstairs. She hears someone else's car start, the sound of the engine fading away. Now she is alone. Another man will soon be in their house, and her husband is driving to another woman. She slowly approaches the window. Her face is absolutely calm. Her eyes are dry. A storm rages inside her, but outside there is ice. She is making plans. She is thinking about how to break his pride, how to get revenge. She has 2 days to prepare, and she will make the most of this time. She makes a promise to herself. He will regret his decision. More than ever before, she turns away from the window and begins to get ready for bed. Her movements are precise and measured. A game has already begun in her head. An hour passes slowly and awkwardly. Jang Mi drives through the dark streets aimlessly. He's just killing time. He can't get to Song-ho's house right away. That would be too weird. He stops at a 24-hour store. He buys a bottle of water. He sits in the car and sips it. He looks at his phone. Silence. Then the phone rings. It's Song-ho. "Where are you?" asks Song-ho. His voice is businesslike. "In the city. On my way." Jang Mi answers curtly. "Meet me at the entrance to my apartment complex. In 10 minutes. To exchange things," says Song-ho and hangs up. Jang Mi starts the engine. He's driving a familiar route. He's been to Song-ho's before, but always on business. Never at night like this. He pulls up to the gate of the luxury complex. His own car is already parked next to the sidewalk. Song-ho's face is visible from the driver's window. They stop next to each other. They both get out. The night is cold. They stand on the empty sidewalk under the streetlight. They look like two spies at a secret meeting. "Keys," says Sun-ho, holding out his hand. Jang Mi silently takes out a ring of keys to Sun-ho's car and his house from his pocket. He places them in Sun-ho's palm. Sun-ho hands him another ring in return. Keys to Jang Mi's car and his own house. The metal is cold. Their fingers touch briefly. Both men pull their hands away. "Phones," Sun-ho commands. They take out their phones. They are modern from the same model line, but in different cases. Jang Mi's case is black leather. Sun-ho's case is dark blue. They pass the devices back and forth. This is the strangest moment. A phone is almost a part of a person now. Everything is in it. Contacts, messages, photos, memories. Jang Mi holds someone else's life in her hand. Sun-ho's phone vibrates. A notification arrives. Jang Mi ignores him. "I emailed myself tomorrow's schedule and to-do list from your phone. I assume you did the same," says Song-ho. Jang Mi nods. He really did email himself the files. Now Song-ho has his meetings, his negotiations, his duties as a boss, and he has some of Song-ho's other, less important matters. That's about it, I think. "Good luck, Jang Mi. Get comfortable," Song-ho grins. He turns and gets into Jang Mi's car, a luxurious dark sedan. He settles comfortably into the driver's seat, adjusts the mirror. He acts like he owns it. He starts the engine. The sound of his beloved car's engine grates on Jang Mi's ears. Song-ho pulls away smoothly and enters the courtyard of the complex, up to Jang Mi's house. The barrier closes behind him. Jang Mi stands alone. In his hands is someone else's keys, and someone else's phone. In his pocket is his own phone, which now belongs to Song-ho. He looks at the stranger's car. It seems uncomfortable and alien to him. He sighs heavily. Steam rises in the cold air. He gets into Song-ho's car. He adjusts the seat to suit himself. Now he has to go to a new address, to a stranger's door, to a stranger's wife. He starts the engine again and slowly drives to Song-ho's house, which is 20 minutes away. His old life is left behind, beyond the barrier. These 2 days have begun. Meanwhile, an icy silence reigns in Jong-mi's house. Kira is in the kitchen, mechanically preparing dinner. She chops vegetables with a sharp knife. Each strike on the cutting board is loud and sharp. She doesn't want to cook for Sun-ho, but she can't help herself. It would look like open hostility, and she has decided to play by the rules, for now. Sun-ho is looking around the house. He walks around the living room, looking at paintings, picking up figurines. He behaves like a tourist in a museum. He feels like a winner who has entered someone else's fortress. He enters the kitchen. "Need help?" he asks politely. "No, everything is ready." "Sit," Kira replies without turning around. Her voice is even, emotionless. She arranges the plates on the dining room table. Everything is beautiful and proper. Napkins, cutlery, water in a carafe. But this properness has no soul. This is a ritual, not a meal. They sit down opposite each other. Sanho tries to start a conversation. "Your home is beautiful. Very cozy." "Thank you," says Kira. She doesn't elaborate. She eats in small bites, staring at her plate. "How are you?" Sun-ho tries again. "Fine, as usual," she replies. An awkward pause. The sound of forks on plates seems deafeningly loud. Sun-ho feels out of place. He expected more. Maybe resistance, maybe a scandal, maybe attempts at flirtation from an offended wife. But he is met with perfect cold politeness. A wall. Kira is a professional at maintaining social decorum. Today, she has perfected the art. Jong-mi? Does he often play such risky games? Sun-ho asks persistently, hoping to offend her. Kira slowly looks up at him. There is no anger or fear in her gaze, only emptiness. "My husband always follows through on his decisions, whatever they may be. That's his principle. I respect that," she says icily, and then she returns to her meal. Sun-ho realizes he won't be able to get through to her, at least not today. He gives in and eats silently too. Dinner passes in complete silence. It seems interminable. When they finish, Kira quickly clears the plates. "I'll clean the kitchen. You should probably rest. I've prepared the guest bedroom upstairs. The towels are on the bed," she says, now standing with her back to him at the sink. "Thank you," Sun-ho mutters. He leaves the dining room. He feels out of place and stupid in this quiet, perfect house. His small victory suddenly doesn't seem so sweet. He goes upstairs to the guest room. He hears water running and dishes clinking in the kitchen. The sounds are lonely and distant. Kira is left alone. She washes a plate and looks out the dark window above the sink. There's no emotion on her face, only a steely determination. She's made it through the first evening. There's not much left. Jang-mi drives up to Song-ho's house. It's a modern A townhouse in a quiet neighborhood. The light is on, only on the porch, and in one window, on the ground floor. He parks someone else's car and sits inside for a long time. He looks at the house. He doesn't want to go out. He doesn't know what awaits him behind that door. A scandal? Hysterics? Tears? He takes someone else's ring of keys, finds the right one. He gets out of the car. Cold air hits his face. He slowly walks along the path to the porch. His steps echo in the silence of the night. He inserts the key into the lock, turns. The click seems very loud. He opens the door and goes inside. The hallway is warm and smells of something delicious, spicy. The light is soft. And right in front of him stands Jasmine. She has been waiting for him. She is dressed in simple dark pants and a light sweater. Her hair is pulled back into a casual bun. She is wearing socks. She looks like someone preparing for a quiet evening at home. They stand and look at each other for a few seconds. Jong-mi freezes. He's seen Jasmine before, at group get-togethers, at dinners. She's always been beautiful, but now, in this soft light of the hallway, in this homely setting, she seems dazzling. Her skin glows a warm chocolate hue, her eyes large and very attentive. She looks at him without a smile, but also without fear. She studies him. Jang-mi is speechless. He didn't expect such calm. He was preparing for a storm. "Jasmine," he finally squeezes out. "Jong-mi," she nods. Her voice is low, pleasant. "Come in. Don't stand in the doorway." She steps back, giving him room. He enters, awkwardly taking off his shoes. He sets them down next to a neatly arranged pair of women's shoes. I need to explain," he begins, feeling like a complete idiot. "Sung-ho already called, explained everything. He says you were playing some kind of game," Jasmine says, turning and heading toward the kitchen. "Go get your things sorted. I'm almost finished with dinner." She acts as if his arrival is the most ordinary thing, as if her friends' husbands come to her house every night of the week. There's not a hint of worry or resentment in her voice. There's a slight weariness, perhaps, and something else that Chun-Mi can't quite place. He stands alone in the hallway, jacket in hand. He hears the frying pan sizzling in the kitchen. He doesn't know where to go, what to do. He feels like a lost boy, not a formidable boss. He carefully walks into the living room. The room is cozy, tastefully furnished, but not as luxurious as his own. There's a book on this table, a pair of glasses next to it. He looks around. This is someone else's life, and now he must live in it for 2 days. And in the next room is that person's wife, a woman who greeted him so calmly that it's more frightening than any hysteria. He understands that these 2 days will be far more difficult than he could have imagined. Chun-Mi stood in the living room, unable to tear his eyes away from her. He thought he remembered what she looked like, but he was wrong. At formal events, she always wore elegant dresses, with impeccable hair and a reserved smile, part of the decor. But now, before him, she was a completely different woman. Her beauty doesn't overwhelm him, but envelops him. She's tall, almost his height. Her movements are smooth and confident, without unnecessary fuss. Her dark skin seems warm and velvety in the lamplight. Her face doesn't resemble Kira's doll-like features. Her cheekbones are stronger, her lips fuller, and her large brown eyes reveal depth and a calm, all-knowing intelligence. She doesn't try to appear sweet or approachable. She simply is. And this simple confuses Chun-Mi more than any artificial appeal. He notices the little things: a small silver hoop earring in one ear, light freckles across the bridge of her nose, the way a sweater clings softly to her shoulders. Her scent, not a harsh perfume, but something natural, like shea butter or coconut mixed with the aroma of cooking food. It's the smell of home. Comfort. The simple life. The life he never had. He realizes he's been silent for too long. He sounds like a teenager. He coughs, trying to collect himself. Jasmine. This situation is absolutely ridiculous. Song-ho and I were playing a game. Truth or dare. It's his move. He stutters. The words wife swap won't come out. It sounds terrible, humiliating for both of them. Swap lives. For 2 days. Everything, including places to live. He's in my house now, with Kira, and I was supposed to come here. He says this, looking at the floor, feeling heat on his cheeks. He is a man who gives orders to hundreds of people, and now he can't put 2 words together in front of his friend's wife. He expects an explosion, resentment, at least the question, "And you agreed?" Jasmine listens, leaning against the doorframe. Her arms are crossed over her chest. When he finishes, she doesn't move. She simply looks at him. Her gaze is scrutinizing, but not judgmental. "Yes," Seong-ho called, explained briefly, said, "Entertain the guest. It won't be long," she finally says. Her voice is still even. And you're not upset?" Jang-mi can't bear it. Her calm frightens him more than her shouting. Jasmine shrugs slightly. A small, barely noticeable smile touches her lips. There is no humor in it. What will upset change? Seong-ho made a decision. You both made that decision. It's a fact. You're here. He's there. She pushes away from the doorframe and goes into the kitchen. Jang-mi automatically follows her. "But that's wrong." "It's not normal," he says, feeling like he's defending some abstract norm that he himself has violated. Jasmine is stirring something in a saucepan. She turns to face him, and now he sees in her eyes not calm, but a tired spark of something familiar. Disappointment? Resignation? Chun-Mi, tell me honestly, for people like you and Song-ho, do the words right or normal even mean anything? Isn't it always just profitable or unprofitable, strong or weak? This was a test of strength. You passed, he passed, and we're just part of the terms of the agreement. She says this without malice, like a statement of the weather, and that's where her terrible strength lies. She doesn't play their game. She observes it from the outside. You are not a part of the terms. You're a human being, Chun-Mi says heatedly, not understanding why he's defending her dignity, which it seemed she had never lost. Jasmine looks at him again, longer, more attentively. Then she nods, as if mentally checking off a box. Thank you. Rarely does anyone in your circle remember that, but the fact remains. 2 days? 2 days, he nods. Okay, then we'll consider you a guest with special status. Dinner's almost ready. Go wash your hands. Everything is fine. She turns to the stove, ending the conversation. Her calm is not feigned. It's deep and unassailable, and it makes Chun-Mi simultaneously awkward and strangely intrigued. He goes to the guest bathroom, washes his hands with cold water, looks in the mirror at his confused face. He prepared for battle, but ended up in a safe haven, and that only made everything more complicated. When he returns, the kitchen table is already set, but it's not just any table. Jasmine has lit 2 tall candles in simple copper holders. A soft, flickering light spills onto the tablecloth, onto the plates, and plays on the glasses. She places a large tureen of something fragrant on the table. On another stove, crispy fish with vegetables is finishing cooking. "Sit down," she says. Jung-mi sits. He expected sandwiches or warmed-up pizza. What he sees is a full, even beautiful dinner. "You shouldn't have bothered so much," he says. "I was cooking for myself. I just increased the portion," she replies. But it doesn't quite ring true. The fish and side dishes are clearly freshly prepared. She ladles the soup. Then she sits down opposite him. She picks up her spoon, and then he notices the details. She poured him wine into the glass that apparently usually sits where Song-ho used to sit. She placed his plate and silverware the same way she usually does for her husband. She even sat on the side that was apparently their usual place for family dinners. She wasn't simply feeding her guest. She was reenacting a ritual, the ritual of dining with her husband. It was incredibly intimate and strange. He felt like an imposter who had squeezed himself into someone else's life, and he wasn't being kicked out, but invited to take the empty chair. "This is very tasty," he says truthfully, tasting the soup. "It's spicy, tangy, with coconut milk and lemongrass." "Thank you. This is my grandmother's recipe from Senegal," says Jasmine. She sipped her wine. In the candlelight, her face seemed mysterious and incredibly beautiful. They ate in silence for a while, but it wasn't the heavy, oppressive silence they had in his house with Kira and Song-ho. It was a calm, even comfortable silence, the silence of 2 tired people. "What are we going to do after dinner?" asks Chun-mi, feeling the need to fill the silence. "We usually watch a TV series, something relaxed, while Song-ho checks her email," she says. Then, looking at him, she adds, "But you're probably tired. You can go rest. I prepared the guest room too." "No, I'm not that tired," Chun-mi says quickly. He suddenly doesn't want this strange, surreal evening to end. He's afraid of being alone in a strange room with his thoughts. "If you don't mind." "Oh, the series sounds good." Jasmine looks at him. Something flashes in her gaze. Understanding? Irony? Complicity? "Okay," she says simply. "Finish your meal. I'll put the kettle on for tea. Or would you like more wine?" "Wine, please," he says. He feels the alcohol in this unusual setting gently blur the sharp edges of his anxiety. He's not the boss anymore. He's not Kira's husband. He's just a man having dinner with a beautiful woman in the warmth of candles. And it's dangerous. But he no longer wants to resist this danger. He's too tired of constant resistance. She pours him more wine. Their gazes meet over the candle flame. And in that moment, Chun-mi understands that these 2 days will change everything. And he, it seems, is no longer afraid of it. Dinner continues. The wine softens the rough edges of awkwardness. The conversation flows easily, veering toward neutral topics, TV shows, books, a new restaurant in town. Jasmine tells the story of how she learned to cook this dish. She becomes animated, gesturing, and at one point, to emphasize the point, she places her hand on his wrist. Lightly, just for a second. Her fingers are warm. The touch is quick but deliberate. Chun-mi freezes, fork in hand. She takes her hand back, as if nothing had happened. But a few minutes later, history repeats itself. She reaches across the table to straighten the napkin next to his plate. Her hand passes close again, almost touching his. He feels a light breath of air, and her scent, warm, spicy. Then she gets up to clear away the empty soup bowls. Passing behind his chair, she lightly touches his shoulder. Very lightly, as if for balance. But there's plenty of space around him. She might as well not touch. These small points of contact are like sparks. They're not random. They're too precise. When she returns with the main course, she doesn't just place the plate in front of him. She bends down to lay it perfectly flat. Her face is right next to his. For a moment, he sees the glint of the candle in her eyes, distinguishes each eyelash. He hears her even breathing. She lingers a split second longer than necessary. Then she straightens, and her gaze slides softly over his face. "Try it. The fish should be juicy," she says, a new note creeping into her voice. Low, slightly husky, she sits down and watches him taste it. She watches him intently, as if something important depends on his reaction. She rests her chin on her hand, and the corners of her lips twitch in a slight, approving smile as he nods. She pours him more wine, filling his glass almost to the brim. Her own cup is also full. Chun-mi feels her every touch, like a tiny electrical charge. His brain splits in two. One part desperately registers these signals, this slowly erasing distance. This part is excited. It whispers that Jasmine is incredibly beautiful, that her calm is deceptive, that something powerful and alluring lies beneath it, that this evening is a unique, strange opportunity that will never come again. But another part, loud and stern, sounds the alarm. This inner voice sounds like his own, the familiar stern voice of a boss. It repeats the rules. The rules of the game: 2 days, formalities, no real confrontations. It reminds him of Kira, of her cold anger, of her promise of revenge. He conjures up Song-ho's face, his smug smirk. To agree to this is to truly lose, to fall into the simplest and most foolish trap, to be outplayed. He thinks about his status, his reputation. What if this is a test? What if Song-ho staged all this to gain power over him? Chanmi tries to defend herself. He looks away when she stares at him too long. He makes his answers a little shorter, a little more businesslike. When she touches his hand again, saying something funny, he carefully removes it to straighten his napkin. He tries to bring the conversation back to a neutral direction. "I suppose I have meetings tomorrow on your schedule?" he asks, trying to keep the conversation businesslike. "Probably, but let's not talk about tomorrow. Today isn't over yet," she retorts, and her leg under the table accidentally brushes against his. He jerks his leg away. He feels like an idiot. He, who is used to commanding, now backs away, like a frightened schoolboy. Wine pulses in his temples, mixing anxiety with forbidden excitement. He sees Jasmine notice his detachment. A shadow flickers in her eyes, either resentment or disappointment, but she doesn't insist. She simply leans back in her chair, adjusts her bun, and the conversation fades again. He thinks he's won a small victory over himself, but this victory is bitter and empty. He feels like he's missing something important, hiding behind his own rules. The silence grows awkward. Chanmi realizes that his withdrawal has ruined the warm, fragile atmosphere that had developed between them. He watches Jasmine push her plate away slightly, her posture becoming more reserved. He feels rude and ungrateful. She welcomed him into her home, fed him, showed unexpected understanding, and yet he acts as if she's contaminated. He remembers her words, "We're just part of the deal," her tired calm. Suddenly he feels sorry for her, and sorry for himself. These endless power plays, these eternal rules, they've driven him to the point where he can't even have a normal evening. "I'm sorry," he says, surprising himself. I'm a little out of sorts today. This whole situation." Jasmine looks up at him. She doesn't smile, but her gaze softens. "That's understandable. This isn't a normal situation for anyone," she says. "But you make it almost normal," he admits. And then he allows himself to smile. A weak, tired, but sincere smile. He doesn't try to hold it back. He's simply tired of fighting it, and she responds. Her smile isn't a slight movement of her lips, but a genuine, warm transformation of her entire face. Her eyes soften. Dimples appear at the corners of her lips. It's a ray of light in the evening gloom. "Thank you. I'm trying," she says, that husky, warm note returning to her voice. This exchange of smiles breaks the ice. He no longer tries to pull away. When she starts talking again, this time about traveling, about the places she dreams of visiting, he listens. Really? He asks questions. He shares his thoughts, albeit cautiously. Their voices become quieter, more intimate. There's still space between them at the table, but it no longer feels like a barricade. When she gets up to bring dessert, simple fruit with ice cream, and passes close again, he doesn't move away. He feels the warmth of her body, and he likes it. The strength to restrain himself melts away, like this ice cream on a warm plate. He no longer thinks about Song-ho, about Kira, about the rules. He thinks about the pleasant sound of her laughter, about how much intelligence there is in her eyes, about how long it has been since anyone has looked at him so simply, without fear or calculation. He gives up his inner defenses one by one. And when she says, smiling, "I think we've gotten through the hardest part of the evening," he simply nods, completely agreeing. The fight is over. He is tired of fighting, and he doesn't need it anymore. Dinner is over. Dessert is eaten. They sit at the table, and the silence falls again. But this time it's different, thick, expectant. Something needs to happen next. Sitting at the kitchen table all night is impossible. Chanmi senses it. He looks at the living room, at the large, soft sofa facing the enormous television. "You were talking about the show," he reminds me, his voice a little hoarse from the wine and his unusual relaxedness. "If the offer still stands, maybe we could watch at least one episode? It's not very comfortable here at the table." He nods toward the sofa. It's a neutral, safe offer, a logical continuation of the evening. But in this situation, in this house, it's more than just an offer to watch TV. It's an invitation to share a personal space, to continue this fragile peace that has emerged between them. Jasmine looks at him. She slowly runs her finger along the rim of her wine glass. Her gaze is thoughtful. She seems to be weighing something. Propriety? The possibility of things getting even more complicated? She makes her choice quickly. Yes, she says, that slight smile touching her lips again. Let's watch it. The new season of that doctor show just started. We usually watch it. She stands, collects the last glasses, and carries them to the sink. Then she dries her hands with a towel. Chun-Mi stands up too. He feels a little dizzy, from the wine, from the change of scenery, from her agreement. He leads the way into the living room and stops in front of the sofa. Where should he sit? The edge? The center? Leave a whole pillow between them? He chooses a seat on the left, pressing a dent into the soft upholstery. Jasmine picks up the remote from the coffee table and turns on the TV. The screen comes alive with a soft blue glow. She walks over to the sofa and, without thinking, sits down, not at the opposite end, but about a meter away, close enough to feel a presence, far enough away that it doesn't feel like an outright intrusion. She turns on a show, turning down the volume so it's background noise. They sit, staring at the screen, where the actors are engaged in an emotional exchange. No one is paying attention to the plot. All attention is focused on the space between them. It seems alive, charged with static electricity. Jung-Mi steals a glance at her profile in the flickering light of the screen. She's motionless, but he sees how tense her shoulders are. She tilts her head slightly. 10 minutes pass, maybe 20. They exchange a few insignificant comments about the plot, but the tension doesn't subside. Chun-Mi notices how Jasmine turns her head slightly from time to time, as if stretching her stiff neck. He sees her fingers briefly touch the spot at the base of her skull. It looks like an unconscious gesture of fatigue, and then the words come out of him almost on their own. Before he has time to think about them. Is your neck stiff? He asks. Have you been spending a lot of time at the stove? She turns her face to him, slightly surprised. Yes, a little. I'm used to not noticing it anymore. I can help. Give you a light massage. Just for a little while. He says it, and he doesn't believe his own words. This is the direct line he's just crossed. This is no longer just sitting next to her. Jasmine looks at him in the dim light. Her eyes are wide open, glittering in the reflected light. She doesn't answer right away. He's ready to take back his words, to apologize for his insolence. But then he sees her gaze soften, not challenge, but quiet, almost resigned gratitude. That would be wonderful, she says quietly. If it's not too much trouble. He moves closer, slowly, as if in a dream. She turns her back to him, removes her hair tie, and her hair, dark and soft, spills over her shoulders. He sees the line of her neck, the fragile collarbones beneath her sweater. He raises his hands. For a second, they hover in midair. This is the point of no return. Then he carefully places his palms on her shoulders, just below the base of her neck. Her muscles are rock hard beneath the thin fabric of her sweater. She shudders at the first touch and takes a deep breath. Sorry, my hands must be cold, he mumbles. It's okay. It feels good, she whispers back. He begins to slowly, gently knead the tense muscles with his fingertips. At first, it's just light, circular movements. Then the pressure becomes more confident. He feels every knot of tension, every pinched ligament. She lets out a soft, almost inaudible moan of relief and drops her head forward, giving him full access. Her trust stuns him. The room is quiet, only the muffled voices from the television and her even breathing, gradually deepening. He focuses on his task, trying to be professional, helpful, but his fingers memorize the feel of her skin under the fabric, the warmth radiating from her. The massage lasts several minutes. The tension in her shoulders seems to ease a little, but his hands, having completed their intended task, refuse to stop. They enjoy this sensation. They enjoy being helpful, providing relief. They enjoy simply touching her. He feels his thumbs slide lower, toward her upper back, toward her shoulder blades. His movements become slower, more fluid, less healing, and more exploratory. He feels the curve of her spine beneath his fingers, fragility and strength at once. Jasmine doesn't move. She doesn't say stop. She doesn't pull away. On the contrary, he feels her body arch slightly under his hands, following their movement, as if inviting him to continue. Her breathing has become slightly more ragged. His hands, as if driven by their own will, descend a little further. Now they rest on the middle of her back, spread wide, feeling every rib, every vertebra under her sweater. The distance between them on the couch has disappeared. He sits close, very close, his knee almost touching her thigh. Is this better? He asks quietly, his voice a mere whisper in her ear. Much, she breathes. And the word conveys more than just the relief of the release of physical tension. Something deeper, a longing for a simple human touch, something she's perhaps long missed. She slowly, very slowly leans back, not moving away, but the opposite. Her back is now almost completely touching his chest. His arms naturally wrap around her, his fingers closing on her stomach, just above her waist. She lets it happen. She places her hands on top of his, not removing them, just covering them. Her head tilts and finds a resting point on his shoulder. They no longer watch the television. They simply sit, merged into one in the dim light of the room. He feels her heart beating beneath his palm, rapidly, excitedly. Or is it his own heart beating? He can no longer tell the difference. All barriers, all rules, the entire outside world have dissolved in the warmth of the sofa, in the silence of this room, in the incredible, crushing rightness of this simple touch. She doesn't resist. She surrenders to him, and he understands that he can no longer stop, and he doesn't want to. They sit like that, frozen, for several long minutes. Her breathing evens out, but her heart still beats rapidly beneath his palm. The light from the television plays across the walls, painting the room blue and gray. He's afraid to move, afraid to disturb this fragile moment. But the silence between them is no longer awkward. It's deep, full, like the darkness outside the window. And then she speaks. Her voice is quiet, a little hoarse, and it sounds right next to his ear because her head is still resting on his shoulder. "Thank you," she whispers. I don't even remember the last time." She breaks off, but he understands. He feels the same. This simple human touch, demanding nothing, carrying no subtext, just the warmth of two bodies. In their world, such a thing is rare. In her world with Song Ho, it seems too. "I've been missing exactly this for a long time," she admits even more quietly, as if ashamed of her words. Just silence. Just affection, without anything else. He doesn't respond with words. He simply holds her a little tighter, his hand stroking hers. It's all he can do. The wine he drank at dinner is doing its job. It has washed away the last vestiges of tension, dulled the voice of reason that still drones on in the background about betrayal and consequences. It has left only pure, simple sensations, the warmth of her body, the silkiness of her hair against his cheek, the sweet scent of wine on her breath. It's a dangerous, dizzying mix, her frankness and the intoxication of alcohol. He feels the ground slipping from under his feet, the universe shrinking to the size of the sofa, to the space between his arms where she lies. Trusting and vulnerable, she slowly turns in his arms. Now they are face to face. In the dim light, he sees her eyes. They are huge, dark, reflecting the flickering of the screen, and something else, a question, anticipation, longing. She looks at his lips, then looks up at his eyes again. The distance between their faces is centimeters. Her breath mingles with his. The mind shuts down, completely and irrevocably. That inner voice that kept telling them about rules, about Kira, about Song Ho, fades away, as if someone had pulled the plug from the socket. All that remains is the deafening silence of desire. He is no longer the boss. She is no longer the wife of a friend. They are simply a man and a woman, caught in the whirlwind of a strange, absurd situation, searching for at least a drop of true warmth. He doesn't remember who made the first move. It seems they moved together. His lips find hers. The first kiss is cautious, questioning. She responds immediately, without hesitation. Her hands rise and grip his hair, pulling him closer. The second kiss is no longer cautious. It is deep, yearning, full of everything unsaid, everything suppressed over the years. All the rules are forgotten, gone, as if they never existed. There is only the taste of her lips, mixed with the taste of wine. Her scent, now so close, intoxicating. Her body, pressed against his, no longer passive, but active, demanding. They kiss, as if trying to make up for a lifetime of lost time, as if the world would end tomorrow. His hands slide under her sweater, touching the hot, smooth skin of her back. She moans into his mouth, and the sound drives him crazy. They slide off the couch onto the soft carpet, still holding each other. The television continues to play its silent play, casting a ghostly light on their entwined bodies. No one thinks about tomorrow. No one thinks about the consequences. There is only the here and now. This moment, this room, this person, everything else has ceased to exist. They have lost control, and they love it. They are free of their roles, their obligations, their old lives. There is only this burning, forbidden truth, finally unleashed. Light. It filters through the cracks in the thick curtains, painting narrow stripes on the ceiling. Chun-Mi opens her eyes. The first thing she feels is disorientation. The ceiling isn't hers. The shape of the room isn't right. The smell is completely different. Not the smell of his bedroom with Kira's expensive perfume and scented candles. This one smells of vanilla, coffee, and something else, unfamiliar but pleasant, feminine. Then realization dawns on him. It rolls over him in a slow, heavy wave, washing away the remnants of sleep. He turns his head. Next to him, on the pillow, facing the window, Jasmine sleeps. Her dark, curly hair is disheveled and scattered across the white pillowcase. The blanket has slipped, revealing the line of her shoulder and back. On her skin, in the soft morning light, he sees traces of his touch, his passion, a slight blush that will make her remember. And then the memory comes back to him in its entirety, searing him with shame and delight at the same time. Evening, dinner, the sofa, her confession, a kiss, the carpet, the bedroom, her bedroom. He closes his eyes, but the images only become brighter. He hears the sound of her laughter, hoarse and free. He feels the silk of her skin under his fingers, the taste of her lips. The guilt is sharp and nauseating. Like a hangover, he's betrayed. He, Jong-mi, a person for whom words and rules were everything, has crossed the line. He's betrayed Song-ho's trust, no matter how vile he was. He's shattered his own principles. He's given Kira the most terrible weapon against him. His thoughts race, panicked, chaotic. What have I done? How will we look each other in the eye? What if Song-ho finds out? And Kira? But beneath this layer of chilling shame, like ash, smolders the embers of a strange, forbidden delight. He feels a lightness in his body that hasn't been there in years. It feels as if a heavy, invisible shell has been lifted. He was simply a man again, not a boss, not a symbol, not a deal-maker. And she, with her, he felt alive. Truly, her sincerity, her response, her passion, it was real. This wasn't an act. Carefully, trying not to wake her, he raises himself on his elbow and looks at her calm, sleeping face, at her long eyelashes resting on her cheeks, at her lips, parted defenselessly, and his heart clenches, not only with guilt, but also with something else, more tender and more terrible. He's afraid to move, afraid that this moment will end, and they will have to return to the real world, full of consequences. While she sleeps, while this quiet morning in a strange bedroom lasts, the catastrophe hasn't yet happened. It only looms on the horizon. And against all logic, he wants to delay this moment. He wants to stay here a little longer, in this warm cocoon, where he is not the boss, but simply a man who made a huge, irreparable mistake and still has the right to enjoy its bitter, exciting consequences. He sees her eyelids flutter. She'll wake up soon, and then everything else will begin. Morning arrives quietly and unnaturally sterile at Jong-mi's house. Sun-ho wakes up in a stranger's guest bedroom. Sunlight filters through the immaculately clean, expensive curtains. The room is beautiful but impersonal, like a suite in a fine hotel. He lies and stares at the ceiling. The night has passed peacefully, almost boringly. Kira has been impeccably polite and cold, like an ice statue. He expected more. Tears, a scene, attempts to seduce him in revenge against her husband. But all he got was polite detachment. It's irritating, but it's not just that. Ever since he woke up, he's been plagued by a vague but persistent unease. Something's wrong. He tosses and turns, but the feeling won't go away. It sits deep in his stomach, a cold, heavy lump. He thinks about Jong-mi, about how he agreed to his condition. Too quickly, without a fight. This doesn't sound like the cautious, calculating boss he is. As if Jang-mi had a plan of his own. Or, as if nothing stopped him. Sun-ho gets up and goes to the window. He sees a well-kept garden, a high fence, silence, too quiet. He remembers Jasmine's face in recent weeks. Her detachment, her quiet, tired answers. She hasn't looked at him with warmth in a long time. What if? No, he dismisses the thought. Jasmine is a faithful wife. She is not like that. She wouldn't dare, but the anxiety doesn't go away. It turns into a nagging itch somewhere in the back of his mind. What if Chun-mi, finding herself in his home, in his space, with his wife, feels like she's in charge? What if he crosses some line? The thought seems wild, but Song-ho knows male nature. He knows how alcohol and a strange situation can weaken inhibitions. And Jasmine, she was so cold to him. What if she's different with someone else? He goes downstairs. The kitchen is empty. Kira is probably still asleep or deliberately avoiding him. He puts on the coffee. His hands instinctively reach for his phone. Not his own. His phone is with Chun-mi now, but the one Chun-mi had. He unlocks it, scrolls through his contacts, his emails. Nothing suspicious, but that doesn't mean anything. And then it dawns on him. The thought comes suddenly, bright and clear like a flash. Cameras. In his own house. In the living room. In the kitchen. In the bedroom. He installed them a year ago, under the pretext of security. Jasmine knew, but she didn't pay attention. He rarely checked them himself. But now they're there. They see everything that happens in his house. Right now, his breathing is ragged. He feels a chill run down his spine. It's not jealousy yet. It's a premonition, a feeling that he's about to open Pandora's box and won't be able to close it. His fingers begin to tremble. He wants to know and doesn't want to know. The coffee is cooling, untouched. Sun-ho sits down at the kitchen table in a quiet, unfamiliar house. He picks up his phone. His fingers, cold and clumsy, find the icon for the surveillance app. He taps it several times before landing. His heart pounds in his throat. The app opens. It asks for a password. He enters it. A grid of small squares appears on the screen, live images from the cameras in his home. He sees his empty living room in the morning light. He sees the kitchen where they had dinner last night. Everything is calm, clean, empty. He switches to the archive of recordings, selects today's date, starts from the last few hours, fast forwards through the night. The kitchen is empty. The living room is dark. He fast forwards. Then a light appears in the frame. Someone has entered. Is it Jasmine? No, it's Jong-mi. He is alone, looking confused. Then Jasmine appears. They are talking. Sun-ho turns up the volume, but the sound is distant, inaudible. He sees them eating dinner, sees the candles, sees Jasmine leaning toward Jong-mi. His jaw clenches. He speeds up the video. Dinner is over. They move into the living room. They sit on the couch, at first far apart. Then, Sun-ho slows down the video. He sees Chan-mi approaching, sees his hands touching Jasmine's shoulders. A massage. His blood begins to run cold. He watches, holding his breath, sees Jasmine not pulling away, sees her leaning back against him, sees them merging in the dim light. It's too much. It's already betrayal, but the worst is yet to come. The recording continues. He sees them kiss. Passionately, desperately, he sees them slide from the couch onto the carpet, still holding each other. The camera in the living room captures everything, every detail, every gesture. Sun-ho feels his face burn, and inside he feels an icy emptiness. He can't tear his eyes away from the screen, even as they walk out of the camera's field of view. Embracing, heading where the stairs lead. Sun-ho freezes. He has his phone in his hand. The screen shows an empty living room, but he just saw it all. He needs to see more. He knows there's another camera, the one in the bedroom. He's never checked it. It was too much. But now he has to. He needs to know the full depth of the betrayal. His finger trembles over the icon labeled bedroom. He hates himself at this moment. He hates Chan-mi. He hates Jasmine, but most of all, he hates the part of himself that's about to click that icon. He takes a deep, shuddering breath and clicks. The screen goes black for a second, then the footage loads. The camera angle covers almost the entire bedroom. Night, dim light from the street. And they are there, in his bed with his wife. Sun-ho doesn't watch and fast forward. He watches in real time, from the moment they entered. He sees them, still kissing, enter the room. He sees Jasmine pull Chan-mi toward the bed. He sees her laugh, quietly, happily, the way she hasn't laughed with Sun-ho in years. He sees her look at Chan-mi, with adoration, with desire, with a new, unfamiliar tenderness. The pain doesn't come right away. First, there's shock, numbness. He watches as if he's watching a bad movie. This can't be real. This isn't his life, not his bedroom, not his wife. Then comes the pain, sharp, physical, like a knife thrust into his ribs. He clutches his chest. He can't breathe. Rage follows, instantaneous, all-consuming. It engulfs him, hot and black. He sees Chan-mi touching her, kissing her. He sees her responding, giving herself completely to him. This isn't an accident, not the mistake of a drunken night. This is reciprocity. This is desire. This is what, it turns out, was so missing in his own marriage. He squeezes the phone so hard the glass cracks. The sound from the device is quiet, but he hears her moans, hears his whispers, hears their laughter. Each sound is like a new blow. He watches, until the recording ends, until they fall asleep, tangled in his bed. When the screen fades, reflecting his own face, distorted with rage, the room is dead silent. Seong-ho doesn't move. He sits, clutching the phone in his hand, staring into space. The pain and rage don't subside. They crystallize into something cold, hard, and utterly sharp. A desire for revenge. Not just anger, but total, devastating retribution. He had just lost more than just his wife. He had lost face. He had been humiliated in the most terrible way, and by his best friend. Now he knows, and now he will act. A plan is already forming in his head. The first step is to show it to Kira. Sun-ho finds Kira on the terrace. She's sitting at a glass table, drinking coffee, and gazing out at the garden. She looks flawless as always, but there's a stony stillness in her posture. She doesn't turn around when he leaves. He approaches and places his phone on the table in front of her. The screen still shows the last scene from the bedroom, the sleepy figures in his bed. "Look," he says. His voice is hoarse, devoid of any emotion. It's not a request, but an order. Kira slowly looks away from the garden, She looks at her phone. Her eyebrows rise slightly in question. She picks up the device. She looks at the screen. She realizes it's a recording. She presses play. Sun-ho watches her face. He sees the faint disdain it reflects for the first few seconds. For him, for this situation. Then, when the living room and dinner appear on the screen, her eyes narrow. When Jang-mi begins the massage, her lips press into a thin white line. She watches without blinking. She doesn't speed up the recording. She watches every second. She watches their kiss on the carpet. She watches them walk upstairs. And then her face changes. It turns pale. Not just pale, but white as marble. All the blood drains. Even her lips lose their color. She looks like a ghost, but her eyes are like embers. Fire flares in them. First, it's shock, disbelief, then insult, and then pure unbridled rage. The same rage she'd hidden so well yesterday, under a mask of politeness. Now it bursts forth and freezes on her face, distorting her features. Her fingers grip the phone so tightly that her knuckles turn white. She watches the recording to the end, until the moment they fall asleep. Then slowly, very slowly, she places the phone face down on the table. She looks up at him. There are no tears in them, only cold, sharp as ice, anger. "He doesn't need my revenge anymore," she says in a quiet, even voice that sends shivers down Song Ho's spine. "He destroyed himself. And with her too." They don't say a word. They both stand up. They act in sync, as if their thoughts have merged into one. Kira goes to the bedroom. Not the guest room, but hers and Chanmi's. She doesn't slam the door. Sun-ho hears the jingle of hangers in the closet. He quickly dresses in the same guest room. His movements are abrupt, jerky. Rage boils within him, but next to Kira's icy anger, his own anger seems hot, but not as dangerous. 10 minutes later, they meet at the front door. Kira is dressed in elegant trousers and a sweater, her hair pulled back into a tight bun, and there's nothing on her face except a touch of foundation. She looks like she's heading to an important business meeting. She's holding not a bag, but her phone and Chanmi's car keys. They get out and get into the car. Kira gets behind the wheel herself. She starts the engine and drives out the gate. The first few minutes are silent. The city flashes past the windows. "They broke all the rules first," Seong-ho finally says. He looks not at her, but out the windshield. "Yes," Kira answers shortly. "The game was over the moment he touched her." "Yes, they left us no choice," he says, and his voice rings with an excuse he's seeking not for her, but for himself. Kira turns the wheel sharply, changing lanes. Her face is unreadable. "Choice?" She says the word with a slight mockery. "We never had a choice. They made it for us. They decided that the rules are nothing, that our feelings are nothing, that we are just a backdrop for their game. What are we going to do when we get there?" Song-ho asks. Kira turns to him for a second. Her gaze holds the same cold determination she had last night, when she promised revenge. "They broke the rules, Seong-ho. That means there are no rules anymore. If they allowed themselves to do this, then why should we limit ourselves?" He looks at her and gradually, her meaning dawns on him. She's not talking about just confrontation. She's talking about symmetry, about equal response. An eye for an eye. He nods slowly. Anger in him mingles with a dark, bitter satisfaction. Yes, why not? If his marriage is ruined, if hers is ruined, if everything collapsed because of one night, then why not make this night common for everyone? Why not erase the last boundaries completely? This is no longer revenge. This is capitulation to the chaos they themselves created. "You're right," he says quietly. "There are no more rules." Kira steps on the gas. The car picks up speed. They are driving to his house, to the place where two people are waiting for them, who do not yet know that their world has already exploded. Chanmi and Jasmine are sitting at the kitchen table. They're drinking coffee. Between them, the awkwardness of a new morning mingles with a quiet, embarrassed intimacy. They avoid eye contact, but their legs occasionally brush under the table, and they both flinch. They talk about trivial matters, about coffee, about the weather, about what to do with breakfast. The world outside the window seems distant and unreal. Their private world consists only of this kitchen and the memory of last night. And then they hear a sound, loud, sharp. Not a doorbell, but a knock. No, not even a knock. It's the sound of someone hitting wood. Another one, louder. Jasmine flinches and looks up. Chanmi jumps, his face growing wary. This is no ordinary visit. Another knock, and a crash. Someone is pounding on the door. Jasmine turns pale. She begins, but can't finish. Chanmi is already moving toward the hallway, but he's too late. There's a final loud thud, the click of a broken lock, and the front door swings open with force, slamming against the wall. They stand in the doorway, Song, Ho, and Kira. They are out of breath, their faces distorted, his with rage, hers with icy, concentrated malice. They look like a united front, like allies in misfortune. In betrayal, Chun-mi freezes mid-step. He looks at his wife and sees in her eyes not just anger, but a triumphant, chilling knowledge. He turns to Jasmine, who has emerged from the kitchen and is standing clutching the doorframe, her eyes filled with terror. A deathly silence falls over the house. No one says a word. Sun-ho and Kira stand in the doorway, breathing heavily, taking in the scene before them. They see Jung-mi in yesterday's wrinkled clothes. They see Jasmine in her dressing gown. They see 2 coffee glasses on the kitchen table. They see the scene so simple, so obvious, so humiliating. Fear, sharp and primal, replaces the confusion in Chun-mi's chest. He sees Song-ho looking at Jasmine. His gaze glides over her robe, over her disheveled hair. He sees Kira looking at him, and there's not a drop of warmth in her gaze, only cold disdain and something else? Satisfaction? They've burst in, they know. And from the way they stand, shoulder to shoulder, 2 Avengers, Jang-mi understands that explanations, justifications, pleas, all are useless. The game has reached a new level, and they've just burst onto his field, or rather, onto the field that was once Song-ho's field, and is now a battlefield. The silence in the hallway weighs down like lead. Song-ho takes a step forward. His face is no longer distorted by rage, but strangely calm. This calm is more terrifying than a scream. He looks at Jung-mi, then at the pale, frozen Jasmine. I think I forgot to warn you about one important detail when we switched lives, Seung-ho says in a flat, emotionless voice. My house has a security system. CCTV, very high quality. He pauses, letting his words sink in. Jung-mi feels a chill run down his spine. Jasmine gasps softly, covering her mouth. She's always available, Seung-ho continues. And she records everything, every room, from every angle. For safety, you know. He slowly takes Jung-mi's phone out of his pocket, the same one he'd been looking at the recordings on. He holds it in his hand, like evidence. The viewing angle is especially good in the living room and in the bedroom. Everything is visible very clearly. Every detail. Ho's words hang in the air, undeniable as a wall. Jang-mi tries to speak, but only a croak comes out. Jasmine retreats back against the wall, her eyes filled with horror and shame. It can be explained, Jang-mi finally breathes, but his voice sounds weak and false even to say himself. Explain, Kira immediately retorts. Her voice is thin, sharp ice. Explain to me why my husband kissed another woman on the living room floor. I am all ears. It was a mistake. We were drinking. The situation, Jang-mi mutters, feeling the ground shift from under her. A mistake? Sung-ho interrupts. He turns on his phone and scrolls through the screen. Here, at 11:47 p.m. Is that also a mistake? And here, at 12:15 a.m., that's a very long series of mistakes, Jang-mi. Very detailed. He turns the phone toward them, but doesn't show it, just holds it in his hand. That's enough. Jasmine covers her face with her hands. All excuses crumble against the simple, incontrovertible fact. They were seen. Everyone. There are recordings. No words needed. Kira looks at her husband with such cold contempt that he wants to sink into the ground. You put your pride above everything, above our marriage, and you lost. Look at yourself, she says, and every word is like a slap in the face. The excuses are gone. Silence falls, in which only heavy breathing can be heard. The facts have been presented. The verdict has been rendered without a trial. All that remains is to announce the outcome. The tension in the room reaches a peak and suddenly snaps like an overstrung string. Sun-ho's anger gives way to a grim, weary satisfaction. Kira's fury gives way to cold, calculating determination. Jang-mi and Jasmine stand broken, knowing there's no point in defending themselves. What now? Jasmine asks quietly, the first to break the silence. She's not speaking to Sun-ho, but to everyone. What now? Kira repeats. Now is the end of the game. The one you started so carelessly. You thought this was a joke? Wife swap? Now you have consequences. Sun-ho looks at Jasmine, and there's no longer any love or pain in his gaze, only detachment. You've made your choice, a very clear one. There's nothing more for you here. Jang-mi tries to meet Kira's gaze, but she looks past him, into the void. You wanted new sensations? Congratulations, you got them. Forever, she says. They understand. The words have been spoken. Boundaries have been crossed beyond repair. Restoring old relationships after this is impossible. Trust is destroyed. Respect is trampled. All that remains is to admit defeat and see what can be reassembled from the rubble. The game has ended in complete defeat for all involved. The decision is made silently, without discussion. It follows logically from what has happened. Kira turns and goes upstairs to the bedroom she shared with Chun-mi, but now she goes there not as the mistress of the house, but as a guest collecting her things. She takes an expensive suitcase from the top shelf of the closet and begins calmly, without fuss, packing her things into it. Dresses, suits, shoes. She doesn't take everything, only the most necessary and most precious. Her movements are precise, quick, without emotion. She doesn't look at the photographs, doesn't touch his things. She simply packs a part of her life into a leather bag. Downstairs in the living room, the three stand, silent. 20 minutes later, Kira comes down with the suitcase. She places it by the door. "I'll go with Song-ho," she declares, looking into the space between Chun-mi and Jasmine. "For a while. Until I decide what to do next. It's a formality." Everyone understands that this time will be permanent. Song-ho nods. For him, this isn't a victory, just a shift in the pieces on the board after a lost game. Jasmine looks at Sun-ho, then at Jong-mi. She understands that her old life in this house is also over. Staying here alone is impossible. Being with a husband who saw these notes is unthinkable. There is only one logical, albeit insane, way out. I'll stay here, for now, she says quietly. That means with Jong-mi. No one protests, no one cries. There is only heavy, universal acceptance. Kira picks up her suitcase and walks out the door without looking back. Sun-ho takes one last expressionless look at Jasmine and Jong-mi, then turns and follows Kira. The door closes. And so the game ended. What began as an innocent joke by the fireplace, after a few drinks, turned into a flywheel that destroyed two families. Chun-mi and Jasmine were left standing in the quiet living room, strange to one and suddenly home to the other. They didn't look at each other. Ahead lay a sea of awkwardness, shame, difficult conversations, and the need to build something new on the ruins of the old. But there was no turning back. Kira and Sun-ho were heading to his, and now, apparently, her home. Their union was born not of love or passion, but of resentment, revenge, and cold calculation. But this was their reality now. The four of them would never get together again. None of them would ever suggest playing truth or dare again. The very words now sounded like a curse. The price of the joke had been too high. They had paid for it with their old world. Now they would have to live in a new one they themselves had created with one fateful game.